The new independent group of MPs is 2 days old, and today it boosted its membership to 11. The three Conservative MPs chose to announce their resignation just minutes before Theresa May appeared in the Commons to face Prime Minister's questions. She's now in Brussels for more talks with the EU. So how will today's events go down? Our political editor Gary Gibbon has been watching. Gary.
I think what strikes you today is that you get an echo of what happened when the Labour MPs quit earlier in the week. Go around talking to other MPs who've stayed in the party and you find an awful lot of them in the Labour Party and quite a few in the Conservative Party who agree almost with every single word of the very graphic criticism that is being made of the party. And you just think, who knows what this entire project becomes, but I doubt the numbers have stalled. I doubt that very much indeed. The other thing that strikes you is that they have jumped without a real plan. They weren't. There's no absolute template here or blueprint, and there aren't agreed policies. They know what they don't like. It's one of these criticisms we keep getting from Europe about Brexit. Everybody knows what the House of Commons doesn't like. We know what these MPs don't like. They don't like Brexit. What do they actually agree on if it were to be, if politics were ever to lift its head and look at other areas? The other thing that tells you they haven't got a plan is that the logic of reducing a tiny, thin majority that the Conservatives with the DUP have to an even thinner wafer is that you are increasing the possibilities of having an early general election. But when I talked to Anna Soubry earlier and asked her, well, presumably you want that, she could think of nothing more horrible than that. So a lot of uncertainty, nothing you can really absolutely grip in certainty, but an amazing new ingredient in our politics in the shifting sands of Brexit politics. The newborn political creature without a proper name has grown another wing. 3 Tory MPs have left their party to link up with the 8 Labour MPs who left their party this week.
Once there were 7, and now there are 11. And at the last count, about 115,000 Twitter followers.
In the Commons earlier, the Tory defectors arrived together and instead of turning to the government benches, turned to the opposition ones. They were welcomed by their new political bedfellows, the Labour defectors. There were selfies. The DUP's Ian Paisley Jr. crept into this one. The independent group now outnumbers the DUP. And the government's majority with the DUP has dropped from 15 to 9. Neither of the two main party leaders wanted to talk about the extraordinary political development staring down at them from the corner of the room.
That is what I will be discussing with the European Commission and will continue to discuss with them and European Union leaders.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Sounds like it might be quite confusing for the European Union to understand exactly what the Prime Minister is turning up with, actually.
Some unicorns welcomed Theresa May to Brussels this evening. Those who left Theresa May's party today say she's a prisoner of the Tories' Brexit hardliners.
The party now is in the grip of the ERG and it's shifted to the right and it continues to carry on.
Hello, what's that?
Is it your fault that those MPs have broken away?
No, don't be silly.
But the Tory splitters say many Tory MPs they now sit opposite in the Commons chamber share their analysis.
No, we've had some wonderful supportive messages from our colleagues.
Did you get some funny glares from former colleagues across the House?
In fact,
smiles,
the opposite.
waves?
Yeah, a lot of smiles. Some lovely text.
You think you might be seeing some of them soon on your bench?
That I don't know, but I think the thing is that we are articulating and doing what many would like to do because they're fed up with it.
You'll stay in for as long as it's recognisably the party you join?
Yeah, I mean, if it morphs into UKIP Light, then I've got a big decision to make.
Could you guarantee you won't be leaving the Conservative Party, 3 months, 6 months, a
No,
year
I
from
can't,
now?
because it depends really upon the direction of travel over the next few months. I mean, if we no deal at the end of March, it won't just be me, it'll be a stampede.
Have you noticed, is it 65%, Chuka? Two-thirds of us are women. Yeah, that says a lot. Sorry.
The former Labour MPs listened as their new Tory allies were asked what policies, apart from opposing Brexit, these long-standing rivals actually agree on.
We're just normal people with values. The policy part comes secondary. People first, politicians second. And that how is the vast, you don't talk to your friends in the pub about what do you think about the social care policy then. It's, how's your gran doing? Yeah. And that's the kind of grouping that we are, and that's been very important. It's literally you park your pre-branding at the door and we talk about values and what's right, and let's discuss it. And what's very important is we need to bring the British public into that conversation.
Each of you talked a bit about the things you thought were wrong with the Tory party and suggesting that it had gone bad very recently. There'll be a lot of people, Labour MPs included, who are thinking of joining this group, who actually think the Tory party did a lot of bad things for a lot of years. And they would include in that welfare changes, austerity. Do you regret a lot of that, or is that what you define as economic competence?
I believe that we did the right thing in the coalition government in particular. I think the coalition government, which I served in, did a marvellous job.
George Osborne chancellorship was a good thing.
My view is that
an awful lot of people thinking of joining this gang might run away the other direction.
I have to say, I think the things that we did to the economy were absolutely necessary at the time. I don't have a problem with that.
George Osborne's budget's a good thing. George Osborne was Chancellor, a good thing. There's quite a policy tussle ahead.
Go and read Hansard and what Heidi has said about the welfare benefit changes.
Theresa May is now in talks in Brussels with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. He, earlier today, said he was not expecting any kind of breakthrough. The trio of defectors called themselves the Three Amigos. They've made an ungovernable House of Commons even harder for Theresa May to manage, and she faces critical votes on Brexit again next week.
Well, as you heard in Gary's report, one of the three Tories to quit was the former business minister Anna Soubry, an outspoken Remainer. She's represented the Nottinghamshire seat of Broxtowe since 2010. It voted to leave the EU in the referendum, and her majority in the 2017 general election was cut to just 800 votes over Labour. So how has her decision today gone down with her constituents? Our correspondent Claire Fallon went to canvass opinion.
We're in Middle England, geographically and also politically. In this Tory-Labour swing seat on the outskirts of Nottingham, they voted out of the EU, but only just. And so now this is a Leave constituency with a Remainer MP who's chosen to leave the Tories. We did find one constant, though. At least everyone knows who she is.
If I say the words to you, Anna Soubry, what would you say?
You don't really want me to tell you, do you?
Oh, go on.
I don't like her.
Why not?
No, I don't think I'd vote for her, no. No, it's not my cup of tea.
Frankly, the politicians are a disgrace, the way they've carried on for the last 2 years. So I can see why they're doing it, and I can see that's the principled thing to do. Whether it's the right thing to do at this point in time, given the situation that we're in, who knows?
At the local Labour office, there's more than tea brewing. While it might be unlikely the MPs forming a new non-party will choose to trigger by-elections, it feels like Labour members here are gearing up for one all the same.
Constituents here in Broxtowe have long said that they don't want Anna Soubry anymore, and I think it's about...
They voted for her a couple of years back.
They did, but that was a couple of years back, and actually the mood in Broxtowe at the moment is completely different.
With what began on Monday as the Labour 7, today gaining Tories too. It's like another MP's going every 60 seconds, each attacking their old party on the way. But we found one party with a warm welcome and a decent spread. But even here, not everyone's dancing to the same beat.
I think they should resign now and stand again, personally.
You think that there should be a by-election now?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Would you vote for her in it?
No.
Did you vote?
She's followed her courage of her convictions.
So you support what she's done?
If she feels that she can't support the party line, good on her.
She's not done right to go, she ought to stuck it out. But if that's her choice, that's her choice.
We don't know who to vote for now. Nobody's agreeing with anybody, are they?
It's too late to disagree now. Everybody should have been in on the decision from day one.
So these MPs who've left their parties, you think they've just left it too late?
Yeah, I do, in a word. I mean, we've got weeks, haven't we? You know, and it's too damn late now.
With opinions split and political parties splitting too, our split from the EU is now just 37 days away. Time, you might think, to stop going round in circles. And yet, round and round we go. Claire Fallon, Channel 4 News in Nottinghamshire.
Well, Anna Soubry joins me now live from just down the road, and next to me here is Sibylle Cash, Conservative Chairman of the European Scrutiny Committee, the former Labour MP, Anne Coffey, and Sir Vince Cable, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. Anna Soubry, can I ask you first of all, I wonder how you feel for your constituents today in having walked away?
I haven't walked away from my constituents at all. I never walk away from my constituents. Can I just say I was first elected with a majority of 389, and the swing against the Conservatives in 2017 in Broxtowe was 3%. The national swing was 4%. And you were in Beeston, and Beeston is a Labour town, and it always has been a Labour town.
You were elected on a Conservative manifesto to honour the referendum result.
Now, I actually made it very clear to my constituents that I would continue to make the case for the single market, the customs union and the positive benefits of immigration. My views on Brexit were very well known. And the point is, I have not changed my values or my principles. My old party, the Conservative Party, has drifted to the right. And
I mean, you paint a very ugly picture of your party today.
Well, that's your interpretation. I wouldn't use that word. In Broxtowe, we win from the centre. It's a key marginal, and that is the quite right tradition. We win in Broxtowe when we are in the centre of British politics. And you've got a Labour Party, and you spoke to Labour activists. They're all supporters of momentum. The Labour candidate in Broxtowe is a proper old Trotskyist. That is the huge shift that's happened in the Labour Party locally and nationally, and unfortunately the Conservative Party has gone to the right.
Let's leave the Labour Party to speak for themselves. You say it's not an ugly picture that you paint, but with your other fellow defectors today, you talk about run by the hard right, MPs more terrified of the constituency party than the electorate, a Prime Minister being bullied into submission over Brexit. I mean, if that is the party as described, is that the leader's issue? Is that Theresa May's fault?
To a large extent. I mean, I thought it was quite interesting that one of my constituents made the point, as I had hoped to make today, that the big mistake that Theresa made was, well, first of all, she hasn't delivered on her excellent words, which she said on the steps of Downing Street when she was elected as the leader and Prime Minister. That's been a big failing. But her other big failing was that having become Prime Minister, she should have formed a consensus on Brexit. She should have reached across the Labour benches to people like Chuck Ramuna and Chris Leslie. All of us would have backed the single market and a customs union.
But the point is, the country voted to leave, and you're not respecting that.
Do please let me finish. Absolutely not true. People, all of us, voted for the triggering of Article 50, voted for the Withdrawal Act. And if you'd let me finish my point, was that was the time when the Prime Minister absolutely could have built a consensus to deliver on Brexit. She put down her red lines, and at that point she alienated huge swathes, not just in Parliament, but in the country. And it's now only at the 11th hour, with literally days to go, that she's somehow reaching out. But the people she reaches out to are the hard right, not across the political divide, not building that consensus, and it's too late. And the only way through the mess, I believe, is a people's vote. That's what we're crying out for
For the moment, Anna Soubry, let's leave it there. Sir William Cash, you've seen three MPs walk away from the party today because Theresa May is giving in to the hard right, to the Brexiteers. Do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel ashamed?
Quite the opposite, actually. I'm not the hard right, never have been. I actually campaigned for gender equality in the International Development Act, which I got through a couple of years ago. I've campaigned against FGM. I've campaigned vigorously for protection of children. In fact, I'm not, and nobody really believes for a minute that I'm hard right.
So what do you make of what the MPs have said today?
Well, actually, I'm afraid they've really got themselves into a terrible mess. Because, for example, I've just heard what Anna said, and she's talking about the general election and the manner in which they've now changed. But in their actual statement today, what they've said is we haven't changed. Effectively, the party has and has given in to a party within the party. Let me put it quite simply. The reality is that the outcome of the manifesto, which you quite rightly referred to, is that we, according to the Withdrawal Act, which she just mentioned, which she admitted she voted for, has actually said the repeal of the 72 Act, European Community Act 1972. Now, Jackie, listen to this. The fact is that what that actually does is to accumulate all the laws and to repeal them. Now, you can't say that and then say you want to stay in the customs union and the single market. But the point is, can I just ask you, what do you make of what Anna Soubry and the other MPs have said today? It is dangerous and damaging for the party to have 3 MPs walk away to say that the party has been hollowed out. That they do not feel welcome anymore. Well, they've made a decision based, in my opinion, on a complete misunderstanding of what the repeal of 1972, which they voted for themselves.
They say that the party has become blue kip, that there is a purple momentum operating within the party, which has made it incredibly unpleasant for MPs.
No, actually, the reality is that the decisions that were taken in the referendum were translated by the Withdrawal Act, which she voted for.
So you feel no unease at these MPs walking away today?
Well, they've made their own decision, and that's a matter for them. But
Let
I have
me
to
put
say,
that to Anna Soubry now. Anna Soubry, you've made your own decision to walk away.
Yes. I'm sorry, but Bill is the epitome of everything that we've said today. I mean, he really is.
Anne Coffey, you are one of the Labour defectors. You have problems in your own ranks, as it were. You're now standing next to Anna Soubry, who said today that she thought austerity undertaken by the Chancellor George Osborne was the right move. I mean, that is the problem for you as a party now, or as a grouping, isn't it?
I think it's very early days. We've declared ourselves to be the independent group. We have shared values, and it's values you need to build on, from which come policies, and that is the challenge ahead of it. And it will be very interesting because we are a very diverse group of people with very different backgrounds.
You're talking very diverse when it comes to welfare, for example, aren't you?
There is a lot of diversity. We're different ages, we're different sexes, we're different generations, we're different backgrounds.
So do you agree with Anna Soubry that austerity was the right plan?
If people can't work together, we can't change anything. And part of the problem, and this is what I'm getting from people who email me, is they're sick and death of the parties shouting and arguing with each other, and they just want people to work together to make something that works. And I think the independent group can do that.
OK, well, let me put this to you from your former Labour colleague, Lucy Powell, who tweeted today, while this may be very exciting for some of these people, and some of them are my friends, the political impact of a new party is a continued long reign of Conservative government, and trying to defeat that means we are now political opponents. You're now political opponents with your former colleagues.
Well, I'm sorry they take that view. In the end, what we thought is people deserved a choice rather than choosing to vote, having to choose between a hard left Labour Party and a hard right Tory party. And if we can't give people choice in this country about who they vote for, we undermine the whole basis of parliamentary democracy.
So, Vince Cable, where does this leave the Liberal Democrats? Some people predicting the beginning of the end.
No, I think it's a very positive development. I think it's absolutely great that people in both parties have shown courage in walking away from the militant tendencies on both the right and the left. I'm looking forward to working with them. I'd see no problem
How
with
will
it.
you work with them, though? I mean, you now have the same number of people in Parliament.
Yeah.
The very first latest poll, and it's very, very early days, I acknowledge that, gives them twice the support that you would have.
Well, I think there's another one that's had us on the same. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is totally artificial because, of course, they're not a separate party. They're a group, and we respect that. Hope they respect us. I think there's great opportunities here for people with moderate, enlightened, sensible views like Anne, and we're looking forward to working with them in Parliament. The mechanics of that are things we've got to work out, but the principle is absolutely clear.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, Vince. Talking about the militant tendency, which presumably would include someone like me, I'm actually no. Well, I'm very glad to hear you say that, because actually what we're doing is standing up for the referendum, 17.4 million. We're standing up for the passage of the Referendum Act, which all the so-called Remainers and Reversers have actually all passed, and the Notification of Withdrawal Act and the Withdrawal Act. And if people want to ask themselves, what is going on in Europe, in the European Union, the bottom line is people are voting with their feet against this because they're fed up with seeing them being taken over by the European Union itself.
Come back in on that, would you?
Can I just say, I think it's very interesting, is that Bill Cash and I used to be in the same party that was in government between 2010 and 2015 in coalition with Vince Cable. And this evening,
and voted
myself,
against the Lisbon Treaty.
Oh God, you know, the man bangs on about Europe. But the point is now, Anne Coffey, what a delight to be with her. Vince Cable, still the man of the same principles, the same values, and I too. And that, frankly, the three of us, and Bill Cash representing, he's a nice enough man, of course he is, the rump that's left now of the Conservative Party. What a long way we've come in just 2 years.
You talk about friends and the delight of being with Anne Coffey, but practically speaking, as Gary said earlier on, everyone knows what your group is against. When will they know what your group is for, and how will you coalesce with so many different views on key issues, not least perhaps tax, welfare?
Because we know that we share the same values and principles. I mean, what's happened over the last couple of years is that, frankly, Chris Leslie, who's the MP for Nottingham East, so he's one of my neighbours, and I've got to know each other, and it's become increasingly clear. My relationship with Chuka is, again, one of real friendship, based on the fact that we know we've got more in common than we have that divides us. And the truth is, I have very little in common with Bill Cash, and I think I speak for the majority of people in this country. We're fed up with these people. We want to get on in a modern, progressive...
We're still on the same manifesto.
A manifesto which the Conservative Party has abandoned.
Well, earlier I spoke to the Defence Minister, Tobias Ellwood. I began by asking him if this was a difficult day for the Conservatives.
It is, don't deny it. It's a very sad day that when we lose good people like this, it gives the perception that perhaps the party is moving to the right. And I'm here to stand here today to say that's not who I am and it's not who the party actually is.
Well, it's more than a perception, isn't it? Because the MPs talked about a party hijacked by the right wing, the Prime Minister bullied into submission, MPs more afraid of people in their constituency party than the electorate. I mean, is that a party you recognise? Are they right?
It's not the party I recognise, but I do understand the power that the ERG yields is actually upsetting the dynamics and indeed the mathematics of Parliament itself. We had a vote last week. There's no requirement to even have that vote whatsoever. It was a non-binding motion, and yet the ERG chose to flex its muscles. And it must recognise it doesn't speak for me, it doesn't speak for the Conservative Party, and it is doing damage to our branding, indeed to the soul of our party.
So it
I'm
has
standing here today.
hijacked the party?
No, it's not hijacked the party. It's taking current mathematical advantage of a Prime Minister that's in a minority government itself. We should welcome many voices from a wide spectrum of sources, including the ERG itself.
The message the women MPs are coming out with today is this is a party that no longer welcomes everyone.
No, there's a moment in time when the ERG are acting as a caucus, and I'm here to say that the majority of parliamentarians and indeed the party itself do not recognise that. And if the ERG doesn't recognise it, they will not only not get Brexit through, their own project by the way, they will also cost us the next general election.